Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is my first impressions video on Galactic challenges. It's actually my second time starting this video because the first time through I was a lot more enthused and I don't feel like that video captures an accurate attitude of how I feel about this event now that I've played it. Basically what we have here is glorified one-wave assault battles. I'm pretty underwhelmed by it. It's pretty uncreative. I wished, at a minimum, things to be visually different with new artwork or new perspectives or new landscape. Like, I don't expect the gameplay to completely be changed with something, with the way that the architecture of this game is constructed, but to do something at a minimum of like what you see in raids or what you've seen in like the Malik epic confrontation, where the point of view and the perspective shifts, just so that we can psychologically feel like we're playing something new or different instead of playing in these same landscapes, playing these same type of battles over and over again. The only thing different is being these modifiers, which add a new wrinkle but doesn't fundamentally introduce anything different. The only thing that is really new with this game mode is being able to replay it and be able to bring in any squad you want. And that's good, but it just begs the question, why haven't we seen this type of content sooner? Because nothing here, I think, is worthy of the amount of time it took for something like this to be released. So some of my first thoughts are, like, now you can see here that I've beat it. You don't see any rewards. So let's go to a higher tier. I'll do tier 7. These rewards here are just your first time winning rewards plus the feats. I don't know why they're showing these rewards down here as if, like, you don't need to show this information twice. So all of this gear here is just what you get through accomplishing these feats, which I'll get to in a moment. But for the briefest of moments during my first record, what I thought we were seeing was that you were going to get gear and rewards with a % chance drop each time you replayed. 'Cause the gear wasn't very good, especially even for players at level 60 to 85. It's irrelevant gear for the most part. So even if you had like a 10% chance of a shard dropping or of gear dropping, like, I would have taken this type of gear you're seeing here at each of these tiers if it was just like a tiny drop rate. But that's not what they were doing, because it's just the feats doubled up being shown down here, which as soon as I realized became kind of disappointing. One thing to be aware is that you do need to do these feats on each tier. That was one thing that was also unclear. It's also more, it's just annoying in its busy work. It's something you get assigned in school that has no actual benefit to you or to what you're trying to do in this game or accomplish. So in a moment here, I'll play some footage of some of my successful attempts, and I'm going to break down what squads I used. So 1 through 4, 4 is where you get the Gear 12 characters, Gear 12 enemies. 5 is where you see the first relic enemies. First 4, I just took my weakest Sith characters and tried to play through with that. It wasn't really much of a challenge or an issue. I did swap out one of my Gear 8 characters in order to make sure I hit this feat. Gear 5 was Tier 5 was the last tier I was able to beat with my Sith, and only with Malik standing. I'll show that in a moment. Tier 6 and Tier 7 I was able to beat with my arena team, with my gas team. So here's the squad I used to beat Tier 5. See, there's a number of Gear 12 with Palpatine and Vader being Gear 12, and then and Malik being Gear 12, and then only Darth Revan and Dark Bastila are relicked. When this playthrough fast, in the end of it, only Malik survives. I found that Palpatine lead was the most helpful for me, getting that extra turn meter. Vader lead, at least at relics, was not very effective for me. The dots and all those extra turns from that new ability during the rework added dots so quickly that it just ate my Vader alive. Maybe at relics it would be a little bit different. I did have one or two good runs, but I find that landing all the shocks, using the Wild Lightning and using Basila's lightning attack to be very effective at slowly just chipping away at this Grievous team. The sniper droid I would pay particular attention to just because he can one-hit you, and if you're not using a Sith team, it's going to prevent revives, which I was having to deal with a number of playthroughs when I was testing out other teams. But you see like how quickly I'm losing a number of characters. Even my Revan and my Bastila are Relic 2, so they're not high relics, but they don't withstand much. And this is Tier 5. I would have liked Tier 5, even at relics, to have just been a little bit lower than where it even is, because the jump between Gear 12 and the relics here, and I know a lot of that is because it's Grievous. I would have liked to have known what relic levels these are, if they're like relic 1 or 2 or whatever, just for comparison's sake, so I could understand what am I even going up against. I think not having that information is a little irritating. The only thing I can think of is maybe with the Tier 6 or Tier 7, we're seeing relic levels above relic 7, and maybe CG doesn't want to reveal that. So here, as I said a moment ago, is my Sith faction. Fairly deeply geared, even though at the top end it's not too high, but Sith Assassin is my weakest one. I was able to do 1 through 4 with some of my worst Sith. Sith Trooper was fun to use for this event. The higher tiers, as I was saying, I utilized my arena team, which is gas, but even my gas team is not that highly relic. Like I have relic 7 on gas, but only relic 5 on 5s, and I brought in Ahsoka, Echo, and Rex. I'll put that footage up in a moment as well, at least for the last tier. I was not able to do it without losing anyone, but I was at least able to get some of the rewards at that level. So here is my playthrough with gas at Tier 7. The couple things that helped here was making sure that Rex didn't get stunned off the bat. Having him get tenacity up was very beneficial. As soon as you have an opportunity to Rexolate Grievous, take it. That was one of the things that affected having this successful run. I did run it a couple times before I got the RNG that worked for it. In general, one of the things that I found useful is you're going to want to bring in a Dispel. So if it's like Sith, Scion, or Nihilus is pretty useful to have, just so you can get around the taunts and get rid of damage immunity on Droideka in the event that he rolls out there. Sniper Droid is someone you want to watch out for. His damage is pretty big. Otherwise, you can typically get around it. In the early tiers, up through Gear 12, before you get to the relics, Grievous doesn't have Metalloid Monstrosity, so you can just go after whoever you want without worrying about triggering those gigantic hits from Grievous, which made a lot of those earlier levels a little easier. I think actually at Gear 12 I would have appreciated Metalloid Monstrosity just for testing purposes. Not having that Zeta at that stage, I think, is not realistic. Last thing I'm going to touch on is Mothma. My team will appear here in just one moment. It's not very good. See, Mothma I just got to gear 11, but Cara Dune was in there, Pow, and 3 Baka, who were all at gear 8. Scarif Rebel Pathfinder is also gear 11. I do have all the Zetas except for Pow's, but I find that the performance that the team gave, even though it loses ultimately, was very interesting. I thought they did surprisingly well. I mean, this is only against gear 12, so Grievous is definitely not the scary Grievous that you see later, but it was an intriguing run where I don't know if this specific record you see the benefits of the double taunts or the revives. I did play through it a few times, but I was able to, like right there, Cara Dune comes back on either this one or some other one. Scarif comes back, and having 3 Baka come back, except when the sniper droid takes them out, which is I think what happened to Scarif just then. But they do decently at this gear level. The damage isn't there, but it kind of shows the survivability of this squad, that it's able to take a lot. I don't like how long it takes to level up the Rebel Trooper. Like, I still haven't gotten to the point where I was able to take advantage of that. So last couple things I want to touch on. This entry menu where you have your overview has this information of the modifiers and feats. Like, they have a lot of redundant information on this UI. So like, you have this overview, you have the modifiers, you can click on all of these, read through them. These were the example ones that they shown. There's nothing new or interesting here. The feats are shown, which in terms of these feats, like, gear walling these rewards is dumb. Like, this stuff should be an achievement. These aren't an achievement. To do something with a high gear amount is just a reward for people who have overdeveloped rosters. Like, part of the fun of doing a lot of these types of events is undergearing them. I mean, a lot of what this channel is about is trying to do things with as low gear as possible, low investment as possible. And having this type of thing just being basically a reward of, you've geared up your squad, you're not going to have trouble beating this, here's some extra stuff you don't need. It's not interesting. I wish they would have thought through what these feats could have been in a lot more interesting ways, even if it's just something dumb like take somebody out with a specific unit. Like, and then lastly, this unit info, I don't even know why they created this. Like, if this was Sith specific, that might be a little interesting, so I don't need to go to my roster to look for this information, but to show my entire roster here is useless. I don't know why they're showing this. Like, we already know that everybody is eligible. What is the purpose of this final panel? There's all these little elements that show how underthought a lot of this is. And it's disappointing. CG has alluded to in one of their posts that, like, this is going to start out simply, but CG also has a long history of overpromising and under-delivering and not coming through. So I'm very skeptical with this event. I'm happy to be able to replay, but I was just hoping for something a little bit more, just something even to the level of what we get with like legendary events. This is way below that. Like, this is assault battles without all the annoyances. So I'm glad I can test out some teams for once. I'll be doing that some more, and that's about it. I'm gonna call it. So anyway, thank you for watching. This has been Still Plays. The previous video was showing a lot more enthusiasm, and now I'm hoping CG changes things rapidly and just shows a little bit more initiative and creativity. Otherwise, like, they could have just given us a sandbox mode and not received probably any of the hate that I'm sure they're going to get over this. Because I don't even understand what the monetization opportunity is. Like, who is going to want to pay to get those gear? Like, I'm not going to level up Sith or any of my roster any differently than I already have been in order to hit these achievements. Like, these are so small to not even matter. Like, the difference between doing this and not doing it. And also, why is this 7 days? Is it just the same stuff day after day after day after day? Like, I don't understand why this is a 7-day event. I should have said this at the beginning of the video because I know almost no one is going to get to this point, but why is this a 7-day event? Why am I doing this thing over and over and over again for 7 days? It's not interesting or fun. Like, make these 2 day, 3 days max. Yeah, that should have been my very first point. Anyway, be safe out there, everyone, and be excellent to each other. This has been Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.